Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. Because I was so wrapped up this week in getting my Q&A videos out, I didn't do the customary Tag Tuesday video on Tuesday. However, I was tagged today by the wonderful Michael Romeo on the mid-year freak out tag. And while I am not freaking out, I do want to do this before it is no longer mid-year. It already isn't June anymore. So I'm going to do this today. It's Wednesday, but I think it's important to get this one out before too much time passes. So the prompts. Number one, the best book that you have read in 2024. That is hands down, without a doubt, Percival Everett's James. This is a positively brilliant novel. This is Percival Everett's retelling of Twain's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn from the perspective of Jim, or James, as he comes to be called in the novel. The best thing I've read in a very, very long time. Okay. Number two, the best sequel you've read this year. I haven't read a lot of sequels, but I was introduced to a new author this year when we were in the middle of horror mayhem, and that is T. Kingfisher. And I read a whole bunch of her books. This one, What Moves the Dead, I think was the second one that I read. And the sequel to that is What Feasts at Night. So this is the sequel. And I just think these are wonderful. And I'm just so happy to have found another, to have found a new author and a horror author that I can read. Okay, number three, a new release you haven't read. I just got this new release. This is Fire Exit by Morgan Talty. And I am very much looking forward to reading this. I read an excerpt from it in a magazine, I think, or online, and I can't wait to read this. So this one's coming soon. Okay. Most anticipated for the second half of 2024. I just received this book. I had pre-ordered this when I first heard about it. This is Liz Moore's new novel, The God of the Woods. As soon as I heard about this, I ordered it months ago, and it just came this week. It was just published this week. I think it was also reviewed last Sunday in the New York Times Book Review. I positively loved Liz Moore's Long Bright River, so as soon as I heard about this, I knew that I needed to order it. So this one's coming up soon. Most anticipated. I mean, it's here, but it's the most anticipated read for me. Okay. Biggest disappointment of 2024. I know this is controversial, but I read this for the Booktube Awards. This is Justin Torres's Blackouts, which has gotten all kinds of accolades all over the internet, all over Booktube. And I was so happy when I saw that I was assigned this to judge in the quarterfinals for the Booktube Awards, and I was painfully disappointed by it. While I completely understood and endorsed and celebrated the purpose of this novel and what it was that Torres was trying to do to show how gay and lesbian history has been blacked out, has not been available, or has been redacted in, in some form. I just found the reading of this tedious, and I was so sad that was my experience of it, because I wanted to love this book from everything I had heard and read about it. I wanted to love it, and I just didn't. Okay. Um, Number 6, your biggest surprise of 2024. My biggest surprise was that I tried horror, a genre I have actively avoided for a huge part of my life. And I tried it at MJ, at Reading This Life, at her recommendation. I tried T. Kingfisher's novel, A House with Good Bones, and I loved it. And I so loved this book that I then went on to read the two that I just showed, and another one, The Twisted Ones. And there's another one too, I think, that I got out of the library that I've returned. So I just, that was a huge surprise. Not just that I found some horror that I liked, but that I fell in love with this author and her work, and that I've now read, I think, 5 novels that she's written. Your newest fictional crush. I don't have fictional crushes. I don't have crushes on fictional characters, but there certainly are authors that I've become infatuated with. So I guess that could be a kind of fictional crush. T. Kingfisher is one. I'm mildly obsessed with her, and I've also become obsessed with Ray Bradbury, and I'm on a Ray Bradbury kick. And these are books that have been around for a really, really long time. But I had only read one of them before. I mean, I had read Fahrenheit 451, and I used to teach it, as a matter of fact. But now I'm reading all kinds of Ray Bradbury. I'm just fascinated by him. And, I watch old videos of him, reading his poetry. I don't know enough about him, but I just I love his work. I love him. So that's my fictional crush. So T. Kingfisher and Ray Bradbury. I also have 100 short stories by Ray Bradbury. It's a great big volume that's upstairs. I didn't bring that one. I didn't bring that one down. So I've been on a Ray Bradbury binge. Okay, your new favorite character. I read this book first for the Booktube quarterfinals, and then I just reread it for my book group, and that is Donald Ryan's The Queen of Dirt Island. It's a beautiful novel set in Ireland, and I adore the 3 women in this family. Most of the novel revolves around a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter. The grandmother, Nana, is her name is Mary, and the mother is Eileen, and Eileen's daughter is Saoirse. And I just loved them all. I just thought they were delightful characters, and it's a crazy family story, and there's lots of fighting and some pretty choice language that gets exchanged among these 3 women. But their love for each other, for one another, the way they just went all out to protect the family, was just really, really heartwarming. So I think they're my favorite family, and my favorite characters right now. Okay. A book that made you cry. I have two. I have a fiction and a nonfiction. For nonfiction, in the octofinals of the Booktube Prize judging, I read Tracy Kidder's Rough Sleepers. And this is about a doctor, Dr. Jim O'Connell in Boston, who treats the homeless. And he treats them where they are. And these are people who are addicted to alcohol, to drugs, people who have just been beaten up and badly treated by the world, and he goes to where they are and treats them with such incredible respect and dignity that in several places this book made me absolutely weep. And then for the quarterfinals, where I was reading fiction, I read Susie Boyt's Loved and Missed. And this is another mother-daughter tale. It's a story of a mother and her drug-addicted daughter who has a child, and then the grandmother ends up raising the child. So it's another, three generation story, and it, just about what the ways addiction can and does destroy families, but just an incredible story of parental love. A mother who will go to all ends for her daughter and for her granddaughter. In several places, this book also just made me weep. This makes me weep thinking about it. A book that made you happy. I have two books by the same author. I've talked a bit on this channel about the poet Ross Gay. He has written two collections of essays, both of which made me very happy. They are The Book of Delights and Inciting Joy. Also beautiful books, beautiful covers. But his point is really that we have to find places in life that even little places, little moments that give us joy, where we can experience a sense of delight. And that's what the essays are really about, finding delight and finding joy in the ordinary, in ordinary everyday life. Number 12 is your favorite book to movie adaptation. And I couldn't think of anything for that, because I think I've seen so few movies this year that I couldn't think of anything that was a book to movie adaptation. And lately I've been reading a lot of Star Trek, and they're old movies and old adaptations, but actually in this case the novels came after the movies, and I wouldn't put them in my favorite categories. Number 13, your favorite video this year, and I think that's supposed to be favorite video that I made. I don't have a favorite video that I made, but I do have a video that I am proud of, and it was one of my very, very early videos, and I know I've talked about this, maybe I talked about this at the quarter year when I don't know where I talked about this, but I feel like I've talked about this before. But back in February when I started my channel, I did a video on Toni Morrison's Beloved as a banned book, and I'm very proud of that video. because in the beginning of the video, I talked about what had happened to me with my previous banned book video, which was on the Kite Runner, which was the one that got so badly trolled that I quit Booktube after all of a weekend. And then when I came back with the help of a lot of people here, I felt like I had to address what had happened. And I think I did that in a way that was helpful to me. And then after I got that off my chest, I was able to talk about the banning history of Toni Morrison's brilliant novel, Beloved. And I had researched that extensively, and I just thought I did the topic justice. So that remains one of the videos that, certainly it's not technically a great video, but in terms of the content, it is a video that I am proud of for both of those reasons. And then number 14 is the most beautiful book you've read this year. So I didn't know if that meant, physically beautiful books or books that, where the story was beautiful. So I guess I kind of answered it in both ways. I think that if we talk about content, beautiful content, Ada Limon's You Are Here, Poetry in the Natural World. That's also a physically beautiful book, but this is her, she has edited this volume, and this is a collection of 50 poets and 50 poems that are all about place in some way, shape, or form. And they're just gorgeous. So the content and the physical copy here are both really, really beautiful. Other books that I think are physically beautiful, my copy of Sense and Sensibility, I think, is a really, really lovely copy. I think this is really pretty. And my copy of Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, I think this is also a beautiful, it's a beautiful cover. All the characters sketched. But also in terms of the story, I think this is probably the most beautiful story that I read this year. I could have talked about this novel for almost all of these questions because it was that powerful to me and that important. I waited a long time in my life to finally read this, and wow, it made a very, very powerful, positive impression on me. Okay, and then finally, what book do you need to read before the end of the year? I don't need to read any book, but I definitely will be reading some of these things that I'm going to be reading for future events. I will finish Ulysses in July. This is a third reread, but I will finish that. I will reread Sense and Sensibility in July. That's also a reread. I will reread Faulkner's As I Lay Dying in the read-along in that's taking place in August. So those are all things that, while I can't say I need to read them, I can say these are things that I will read, not only before the end of the year, but before the end of the summer, I do believe. Okay, also, I should have said at the beginning that this is a tag that was created by, I'm not sure if the name is Chami or Chami, but this is a booktuber who apparently no longer has a channel. And I think that anybody who hasn't done this, I've seen these all over Booktube, but if you haven't done this yet, and this is something that interests you, sort of taking stock at the half-year point, I hope that you will consider yourself tagged. Okay. As always, I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.